You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Life is not easy. It never was, and it never will be. A good life takes grit. Prioritize who you are and who you want to be, because life isn't fair, and a little grit can make all the difference. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast, folks. I am your host, Brian Call, and I am joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman. Brent, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
All right. So today's podcast is the continuation of the last episode with Ryan Lampers and Jeff Lusk, where last episode we talked about gear. On this episode, we talk about food and nutrition. It's a little shorter show. We have been dialing in our backcountry food and kind of what we like to eat.
Dehydrating your own stuff.
Dehydrating our own meals, making our own snacks, trying to eat really clean, really healthy. I do eat very clean at home on a daily basis, and I want to take that into the backcountry. It's so often that we go into the backcountry and we swing up there with a bunch of crappy Snickers bars.
Are so convenient, though.
Other type foods.
They're at the gas station on the way.
And they have a severely negative impact. And if you're a young dude, you'll bounce back. You tend to. If you're an older dude and you're going out for a week and that's it, and your whole season's done, or you're going to be back for weeks before you go out again, you get away with it. You can even lose all your weight and get away with it. But if you're going to spend significant time in the backcountry, come home, and then go right back out again and go right back out again, or you want to be performing when you get home in the gym or in sports or something like that, or in your active job, say you do construction, the last thing you want is to be all wrecked from the backcountry because you ate like crap and beat yourself up. Because this hunt we did was like, it was physically a grind. I mean, it was intense. But we were rewarded with great success. It had a lot to do with just the work factor. I mean, we just put in the miles. We put in the boot time. We put in the hiking. So this podcast, I think, is good. It'll help you get dialed on we figured out what was working for us food-wise. What we want to tweak a little bit. There's always something new to pick up. So I think this is going to be good. Ryan talks about the CBD oil that he's been using, and it seems to be having a significant impact on his inflammation levels and reducing those. It's kind of like, it seems as though it's having a dramatic impact on his recovery time. So there's a lot of research being done on that. Hillary is a doctor. His wife Hillary is a doctor, and they have been testing it and reviewing it, and they actually have a product that they're marketing through their site that you can pick up from them. I haven't used it yet, but I will here soon. I'll start messing around with that. I use fish oil, which I didn't bring on this trip. I think would have been really good for me. I just got lazy and didn't pack it and was like, it's a short trip. But I think I would have really benefited from that. The bear videos. So we have a day-by-day kind of series we're working on, and the goal is to get them out in the next couple of days, but that's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be next Monday, I think, is our launch date. We're going to go Monday, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or
whatever.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Monday,
like
Wednesday, Friday. I think there's 5 episodes, kind of 6 maybe is what we're doing. It's really cool. We got a lot of it edited. I just don't want to put it out until it's
done. Yeah,
until it's got more of what I want in it. But it's really cool. We could release it right away this week, but I think I want to make sure. I just want to make it. I'm having fun.
Yeah, you're having fun with this.
I'm having fun with the storytelling and the footage, and I mean, it's like a project I'm actually really enjoying the building of. And I got some help in here. Brent's helping me work on it, and some other video people. So it's cool, man. I'm excited. So look for that. It's coming soon, just not here yet. But it's a great hunt, beautiful country. I think we got some killer footage and great shots on film. It's cool. Also, look for podcasts coming up. We got a lot of bear meat, so we're going to cover how we're going to cook it. I'm going to can it, basically. And then I'm going to take my canned meat and I'm going to make some backcountry meals out of my bear. So it's just straight up field to table kind of stuff. We got a lot of people asking us to actually video or podcast video our backcountry meal prep, our dehydration of our meals. So we're going to do select a couple and show you kind of boom, boom, boom. Here's how we do it. It's pretty simple. I think you'll be surprised, but some people just want it visually. So we're going to go ahead and put that into an episode coming up, as well as like our jerky and kind of how
we're
going to
talk a bit about bear meat and stuff.
Yeah.
How to treat bear meat. Because, I mean, like, there's a lot of things. You treat bear meat different than other meats.
You do. Yep. So any omnivore or predator animal has to be cooked just to avoid the types of parasites that any meat-eating animal has a slew of parasites that
and you got to get the fat out parasites and stuff. And
yeah.
We'll go into that stuff more.
We have a couple of comments. I'm going to read through them real quick. I think they're pretty cool. We talked about hides in the backcountry.
That was a problem for you guys.
Was a problem. Hides and meat. The meat seemed to be protected from the flies because it was in those Graxaw game bags, which we're all a big fan of.
But not so much your hides.
But the hides were sketchy a little bit. The hides were inside these. We're not inside game bags. And it was just hot at night and during the day, and so the fat on the hide too would get hot, and it just turned into Crisco grease, and the flies just come at it, and
they love it, dude. It's melted butter.
It was bad, and then it would it wouldn't cool off at night even, and then we got a lot of fly blow on them, and just
dude, I remember in Prince of Wales shooting a bear, and 10 minutes later, its entire face and orifice was just crawling with fly blow.
Yeah, up the nose and everything.
How do they do it?
Yeah, they're intense. So how you handle it, we had a few people. Sean Van writes in and says, you can figure about 25 pounds of salt per hide is enough for a few days. So if you had 25 pounds per hide at the transportation, then scrap off old salt and resalt for the ride home. That should keep everything from rotting. 25 freaking pounds.
I know, he nonchalantly.
Dude, do you not realize?
Bring me the 30 pounds of Crisco, lad.
We were so far into the backcountry, 25 pounds of salt doesn't do me a whole lot of good. No. I mean, I guess you could pre-pack, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, We got 5 bears, so you need 125 pounds of salt to handle all those hides.
At the transportation location, Brian.
You want more there, so you get rid of the old stuff and put more salt on. No, I get it. The other guy that wrote in, Leo Van Warmerdam, he wrote in as well on the podcast, and he said, enjoy the podcast, love the gear review. I used to work in the hide and leather industry. To preserve the bear hide or any skin, scrape off as much meat and fat as possible, which each coat had varying degrees of that done. Then coat the flesh side with medium coarse salt all over. Use extra. The skin will absorb a lot of salt. Then roll up the skin first side out. Salt stops the bacterial decomposition immediately, as soon as possible, salt that skin. The hotter it is, the sooner you need to salt it. If you wait too long, the fur can start to fall out, and you lose structural strength of the skin itself. Be great if you showed the finished tanned bear hides when you have them done. Stay gritty. So thank you, Leo Van Warmerdam. So how much salt, Sean said 25 pounds per hide. Either way, I need to learn a little more about this. When the temperatures are colder, it's not that big a deal. It can just keep a lot longer. But in these spring periods, it was damp and it's warm. There's humidity. It's just, it's a race against time.
Is there something you can smoke them in some way to preserve them while you're out there, or?
No, but something you can do is, Ryan mentioned black pepper or cayenne, and you sprinkle that on there. That's a small thing to bring, and that keeps the flies off of it and keeps them from laying eggs and stuff.
And I can have cayenne in the backcountry. Double win.
For some. But, there was no substitute for just getting it out of the backcountry. one thing I talked to a few guys is they said they would, if they could get it off the animal and cool it that night, and so let's say the temperature dropped, which one night it did. It dropped. It got really cool. And he said, then I'd put it in a breathable game bag, roll it up, pop it in a game bag, and seal it so no flies can get on it, and then store it in a cool place. Because you're locking in the cool temperatures, and you're putting it in a cool spot. And then again, at night, you take it out of the breathable bag, right?
Cool off in the
and then
cold
you
air.
put it back out in the cold air again. So every night it soaks up all that cold air, roll it up, put it in a game bag that keeps the flies off of it during the day. So the flies can't lay eggs on it, basically, because it's inside a bag.
Yeah.
So, and the game bags that Jeff used were big enough to do something like a hide if you wanted to.
The Grack saws, are they big enough to shove a hide
They're
in?
more like a boned out,
throwing a hindquarter kind of a thing.
They're not really big. They weren't big enough to put, because you have a hide. It's massive. It's just so much fur, claws. And if the head is in still, I removed the head from mine. Lampers left his head in. It just depends, but it's still going to take up space. So you need a pretty large, like a pillowcase size bag that would seal shut. And
what I'm seeing right here is a hole in the hunting industry that needs to be filled.
I mean, well, I think that the common theme here is you got to get it under ice. You got to keep it cool. With meat can,
if it can get aired out and get a skin on it.
Even if it takes time for meat to spoil. So in the heat, the critical part with meat is you get it off the animal and cooling as quickly as possible. The hide off, the meat out, and
Cooling.
if need to, off the bone, right? And it cools. Let's say there's a cool wind that night. Once the meat has lost the heat that it was holding during, from the animal's body heat. Once it's lost that heat, it'll keep for a pretty long time, just hanging in a game bag. As long as, and it's sealed up so no flies can lay eggs on it, right? So it actually can keep pretty well. You'll be surprised how long you can keep meat in average temperatures, So put it in a cool place, let the wind, as long as you get the heat out of it initially. We've had meat in the backcountry for a week. It's not.
Just snacking on it.
Yep. And you just pull it out and cut the little rind off. The outer edges can kind of, we left the quarters in on a bunch of on the last load of bear, because every time you cut the bone out, you expose more meat to the air, more cuts or more parts of the meat to the air. And then that's going to end up being spoilage.
Bunch of surface area.
Gone. You increase surface area basically of your cut, and then it gets a hard crust or it gets a little bacteria or something on it, and then you got to cut all that off and then get back to the good stuff underneath it. And the more surface area you make from deboning, the more surface area you got to cut off and waste. So it's nice to keep the bone in if you can. We actually did on the first 2 bears we boned out because they were in the bottom of a hellhole. And then the last 3 bears we kept in, the bones in. Well, not all 3, two of them.
We're going to have some fun cooking these things.
It'll be cool. I think that the meat, I still am curious about the hides, but most of my hunts moving forward are not going to be warm, or I'm going to have access to get it out and into a freezer. Bringing it home, we had access to dry ice. So we put the hides in there, and I had 2 hides, and they were both covered in a little bit of fly blow and stuff, and you're worried about, being warm. So we're able to bum a freezer from the local grocery store, put it in there for like 8 hours, let it freeze, the hides freeze, and then we dropped them in our coolers, and then we bought dry ice from the grocery store, and the dry ice sits on top.
Because it's weird.
Because it freezes downward.
It's fake ice.
And it actually froze the top layers of the hides.
Oh, wow.
And kept them frozen the whole long drive home. And same with the meat, put it over the meat, and it was frozen. And so once you get to a cooler and ice and all that, you're kind of home free. You can be, as long as you keep it cold. So, yeah. But
we're talking about bears a lot.
Backcountry, yeah, a little bit. And then let me see. We had another comment that said, could you imagine having, this is James Withrow, could you imagine having to poop scoop after your pet bear at the park? I'm thinking contractor garbage bags and a snow shovel. Yes, that's related to Brent's comment.
And here's the deal. No, you wouldn't be picking it up with a snow. Like, the whole point of that conversation, Brian, was to say, if we had done it right, and we had gone after and tried to domesticate bears instead of dogs, things would be different. First of all, doggy door? No, you'd have a bear door. Okay? We wouldn't have these little plastic bags for picking up bear poop like we do dog poop. We'd have poop hits.
Poop hits?
Poop hits. Giant poop hits.
Oh.
Where the bears collectively go and do their business, and then, because we're a green society, we reuse that. See, we just didn't evolve correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of waste that you'd have to. Poop hit's not magic. Like, it's still poo in there.
Yes, but you don't understand. We evolved with them. So we came along, we took said black bear poo. I don't know. Do you think that stuff makes good fertilizer?
You really should not be using any meat-eating poo.
But see, Brian, it
carries a lot of parasites. That's
look
why
at a wolf.
That's why they're not using dog dew as mulch for your human garden.
Well, here's the deal.
I'm sorry, it's got worms and all kinds of other things in it.
They wouldn't be like the bears of today. Look at wolves. Now look at a pug. They look nothing alike. We would have done the same thing.
You mean bred them for selective
ugliness, apparently, and shortness of breath. But we could imagine, Brian, a pug bear.
Wow, you are a creative dude.
I'm just saying.
So you're picturing like a skinless Chihuahua bear.
Have you seen the picture of that bear that's losing all of its fur in the zoo? It looks if you type in hairless bear, a nightmare will pop up in Google.
Another guy asked us about ticks, and he said, or flies, like bugs. What are you doing about bugs? Because he didn't hear us really address that.
Because you've never really had any problem with ticks.
I've never been. So another guy wrote in Middle Fork Fly Fishing. He's like, never been bit by a tick? Or did you just mean on that trip? I hate them parasites. No, I've never been bit by a tick ever.
We've never lived in a place that was tickable.
Well, it wasn't tick infested. I've been around the world, but I've been there in the winters a lot. I don't know. I've been around ticks. I've had ticks on me, but I've never had.
You've never been bit.
I've never been bit, and I've never really worried about them much. The most ticks I ran into was before this hunt was in eastern Montana, and there were ticks on me a lot, and I just brushed them off, but nothing ever did anything. But when I got home at the house after that long drive back with the bears, I went in the house, and I was stripping off my drawers, and I looked down, and on my kneecap, I had a little tick for the first time in my life, like trying to make its way into my skin.
See, I'm imagining the scenario, and I can't because my brain is on fire thinking about a tick eating me.
And it's like, it's just got a little bit of it in there, like it's pushing in.
Not today, dirtbag.
And I was like, what? So that was my first ever time, and I
bring me fire, children.
And I just grabbed it with my hand and just squished the life out of it.
And that's how you get Lyme disease.
And it came right out, like it was barely in. And I don't know enough about ticks to know much, but it didn't leave like a head stuck in there or any parts. Like I guess that's can be a problem.
Lovely.
It wasn't really burrowing in to suck anything yet. I think it was just moving in to try to. Its legs weren't pinned back, I guess. It wasn't really parasiting me yet. It was sort of like half parasiting or a tenth parasiting me.
It was preparing itself for the parasiting.
Yeah, so I pulled it out and then I made sure like I dug out my skin right there to make sure there was nothing
for real,
there.
Dude. That's when you get the toenail clippers.
Yeah, you're just like
gouging,
just pulling pieces.
I don't need this chunk of kneecap.
That's right. I don't need this. Get it gone.
Lyme disease.
Cut out the infection.
Yeah.
I guess Lyme disease, there's like, it spews a bunch of crud in you when you pull it out if you do it kind of once it's doing its thing. I guess. I don't know.
There's a lot of things out there that if they bite you, you just got to cut skin out.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my thing. That was the first time. So congratulations, Brian Call. You got your first little tick digging in. Ben's had them a bunch of times. I know a ton of people who've had them that I grew up with. I just never really bothered me much. But this trip was on epic levels. Like, I've never seen this many ticks in my life. I don't know.
It's probably because you were in thick bear country, and I bet you were those bears covered in ticks.
Covered in ticks.
It's the bears' fault. The bears. You have gross, hairy neighbors. They got ticks.
Like, there is a ton of bears in this country. Tons.
That's got to have something to do with it.
Dense bear population. Obviously, we shot 5 giants, or not. I'd say 4.
Did you see a bunch of ticks when there were no bears around?
Yeah, any piece of grass had some. It had ticks on it. Everywhere you walked, there were ticks. If you walked through brush, there was like ticks on you minutes later. There were ticks. I mean, it was
How
like,
did human beings make it?
I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know if it's the time of year, if they're just thicker this time of year because it's spring and they're all hatching at the same time, or what. I don't know. Like I said, I've been around, but not at these kind of levels before.
Yeah.
I've never had to like worry about them being everywhere you walk. Even in Oklahoma, I mean, they're all over in Oklahoma. They're all over in Texas. I didn't get them then though either. Like, they were on me every now and then. We were turkey hunting, but the guys went out and they came back and they had like 18 on their legs, and I'm like, I don't have any. But this trip I did.
Sad day, man.
So anyway. Thanks you for the comments. I really appreciate the engagement, and leaving the comments. Hope we answered some of those questions for you. Most of them we don't know the answers. I did have a question about tanning. So somebody out there that's listening, I have like 4 bear hides in my freezer. And Brent wants me to make a giant bear robe out of the hides.
Or coat,
like a big bear cape.
The ideal
like
scenario.
Stitch them all together into like one massive,
gigantic furry bear coat that
and
you
Brent
would just wear open all the time.
And Brent even thinks there needs to be at least one bear skull that's half intact that hangs down.
That's second
over
scenario.
Your forehead.
First scenario,
kind
you
of
just
like
have this big,
Ewoks.
You just wearing a big giant bear skin,
just on your shoulders,
with like coat, like it's a coat,
like a cloak.
More like a gigantic bathrobe that's badass because it's made out of bear fur. So you can just throw that hefty bad boy. It's going to be hot, though. So, I mean, like, this is going to be a winter strictly only accessory.
Yeah.
And it's got to stay open in the front.
Right. Okay.
And then
I think it would turn Suzanne on. I'm pretty sure.
Especially if you had a big hairy chest to go along with that bear coat. It would look pretty cool.
I have an average chest with average hair.
I'm the missing link. No one's going to see. They're not going to know that it's open if I wear it.
But what I'm asking about is the bear. I don't want to. I have a couple of bear rugs already. I love bear fur. Mm-hmm. I do, and I'm just trying to figure out: do I just tan them and just let them be the way they are, which I'm okay with? Should I go ahead and tan them and cut the claws and the head, like that stuff off, and just have that patch of fur that you can just kind of lay out and throw over a couch or whatever? I like functional fur. I like
Costco sheepskins are my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to give me a cool gift for Christmas or whatever, I tell you, $99, Costco sheepskin.
Yeah, I mean, just a skin like that with the fur on is
with the soft leather on the other side.
Nice, So I can't figure out what I really want to do with it. And I don't know enough about tanning to know, because I've had skins that were tan that were hard as a rock, and then I've had ones tan that are supple and just kind of like lay down.
Is so tricky.
Well, I don't know how you get what. And
so what's the question you have?
I'm just kind of curious, what guys know about tanning hides and how it can be done, how you would want it done for different uses.
If anyone knows how to go about making a bear coat, contact me at grittybroman@gmail.com and let's get this made.
Yeah.
It's basically what we're getting at. Any seamstresses listening to this podcast?
But I think I've seen some just tanned and laid out on the floor too, with no backing or anything like that. And
I like furs and skulls that I can interact with.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
Yeah. I've seen different ways to display some of this stuff in your home, and I kind of am leaning less and less. I'm leaning away from taxidermy and more into just just kind
the
of
fur and the claws.
Yeah, just collecting some of those little mementos and having them on display a little bit around the home. I like it, but I do love taxidermy, but there's something about this European mount, like this moose in the office. I have another moose down the hall that I really like.
You can touch them.
And if you throw a big old, furry taxidermy onto that,
Well, first of all, moose look weird. That's just a weird looking animal. They couldn't tell if they wanted to be a deer or a horse, and they went for both.
They're cool though.
They're cool.
I have a cape in my freezer right now, and I'm like, it's hard to decide.
But I could put both my fists on top of each other and shove them up those noses. They're gigantic.
They are an odd looking critter, but they're awesome.
They look fine without any fur or skin.
That's a cool rack.
It is.
So. Yeah, if anybody has any ideas on bear fur and hides and tanning and stuff, hit us up. Yeah, be cool I'd like to have someone on the podcast who can talk about also taking care of hides in the backcountry and, different things you can do with bear skins, like more creative things than the typical.
There's got to be some people out there who have
rug
nerded out hardcore on taking care of skin in the backcountry.
Yeah. So we got Mountain Ops Film Night for Portland on June 27th.
Yep.
Buy some tickets, folks. If you live in the Portland area, the Northwest area, come join us on June 27th for a killer night. I'm going to have 2 films being shown there. One is of my trip, the movie Untamed that we showed at the Western Hunt Expo of the moose hunt. It's just awesome. And then we have
the
Kodiak film where we go blacktail hunting for Sitka blacktail on Kodiak Island with Cole Kramer and my buddies from Leopold. Leopold's going to be there. They're helping to produce the film. Man, it's super cool film.
We're going to have Chad Mendez's film. Discipline's going to be playing. And the Angry Mountain production guys, DIY Elk Hunt, will be playing as well.
And we're going to give away a ton of stuff.
It's going to be tons of raffles.
Raffles and things like that. So go to mountainops.com and then go to the events tab and find that Portland show and get some tickets. You can put in, you're going to win some stuff. I mean, I felt like every other person got stuff when we did it here.
And it's weird to say, come check out this movie. It's not just a movie. I mean, it's an experience. Yeah. Anytime someone pulls out a t-shirt cannon, it's no longer a movie. You're at an event. So we're going to have swag and all kinds of other stuff there, logo, gear. And we'll probably be there hanging out. We'll be there. It'll be fun. Our t-shirts and hats are going to be on the website in a day or two. I'm getting tired of saying that, but we really are like at the finish line. Yeah. And then Brent's going to send out a newsletter the second the t-shirts get in. The moment. So as soon as they're up and running, if you just check on the newsletter, he's going to notify you. So you don't have to send us a message or anything. Just look for the email, and then when it's up on a future podcast, we'll let you know. Mm-hmm. So that's it. That's it for now, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast. I hope you enjoy the show with Ryan and Jeff. I know this was a long-winded introduction to this podcast, but we just wanted to kind of touch base with everybody and share our ideas and what's going on. And hope you enjoyed the conversation. And we look forward to hearing from some kind of hide and tannery bear expert. Please. Or if what's the art of making coats? A coterer? Coterie? Isn't that like coat maker? Deep question. To the Wikipedia. Till next time. Yep. Stay gritty, friends. So let's talk about cooking. Because I brought this time we all use the same stove. The JetBoil Minimo. Yes. Minimo. Thing's awesome. So describe that, why it's different than the other stoves and why it's good. So I went to the Minimo a long time ago, years ago, because I was so frustrated with most of the JetBoil flashes and, I don't even know the name. Quick heat, fast. Yeah, so a lot of JetBoils, for a lot of people that don't know, they're just like they're a torch. It's like immediate blue flame, and you're like trying to boil water. They're great for that. But a lot of times, when you get into making your own food, you get into
like rehydrating meals that you've made or whatever, or doing what we
Cooking
did
bear
cooking
meat.
bear meat at the end, like we did, rendering fat while you're back there. The Minimo, it's got the best like adjustment for temperature.
Mm-hmm.
You can turn that down to just a light orange flame, and then you can crank it up to a torch.
I didn't realize how critical that was. I've been frustrated. I didn't know. I thought the other ones just were junk.
Yeah, I've tried explaining it, that how important that is, because, you know, if you're just doing water and doing Mountain House, boiling water, the flashes, they're great.
Heather's choice, because you're just going to boil the water super hot, dump it in, and seal the pouch.
Right. And there's that, and that's great. But, man, if you want to get creative on the mountain, you make your own foods, you want to eat it faster, we've gone to that Minimo because it's got a wider mouth to it, real easy to just eat right out of. And it doesn't take very long to rehydrate your food when you simmer it a little while. Couple minutes of simmering on a slow flame. You don't have to wait 20 minutes, which typically is...
as soon as you dump that water in, it loses all the heat.
Yeah.
You seal the bag, and that's not as warm.
And you're 20 minutes in waiting for that dang meal. Whereas I feel like you're less than half that, well beyond less than half that, with simmering it just for a short while. And also, the benefit of being able to turn that way down and render bear fat. You can't render bear fat back there with a torch. You just can't do it. And when you slowly render bear fat and you get that all the oil and grease out of there, and then you can turn it up a little bit and get it bubbling like a deep fryer, and then dump little nuggets or whatever, you know, in the fall you can do grouse and stuff like that.
So for people who don't know what you're talking about is we took the fat off the bear meat, a little bit of bear fat. You cubed it into little tiny pieces. Yeah. And then when you put it in the pot, you feathered that flame, so it's just barely going enough.
Yeah, and the fat just starts oozing out of the big chunks of white, buttery fat immediately.
And if it's too hot, it'll just stick right in the pan. Right. Won't render out. And so this way it just slowly gets it greasy, and then once it's all coated in grease, you could raise the temperature a little bit, although you don't really need too much. But then you were able to get that fat to turn into look like bacon grease.
Yeah.
Cooking oil.
It took a few minutes, and we had an inch of grease, just hot oil in the bottom of that. And then you can just drop those nuggets in, and it just bubbles like crazy.
You cubed the meat into like 1 inch by 1 inch or smaller, half inch, and dumped it in there and deep
one of the other
it.
things I've done this time of year in the spring hunting bears is morels. If you find morels and you get a bear, you can do the same thing with morels. You can drop them in and eat those things like crispy little mushrooms, and they're really, really good. And you just can't do that with a real fast flame. So
it's very versatile.
Yeah,
I like it. And then I'm eating Ryan's Mountain Mush that you get off the Hunt Harvest Health website. You can check that out. And a lot of the meals I dehydrated, same thing. And I could just turn them up. Same thing with any hot cocos or whatever. I feel like I always end up boiling it to scalding hot temperature, and then I got to wait 5 minutes for it to cool down, or 10 minutes before I can drink my hot drink. This, you just warm it up to what you want, and then you can just drink it right then.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah,
I noticed you went a lot of DIY food on this one. You had sweet potato leather, which is awesome, right?
Yep.
You like that?
That was money. We talked about that on earlier podcasts.
So good.
Lots
Jerky.
of shrimp.
Yeah, you went above and beyond on your dehydrated meals. You had shrimp with all kinds of like noodles and
those little salad shrimp dehydrate really well. So I got a lot of that just for protein content, and I like the taste of it. I like ramen a few days a week or every day. Like there's something about noodles and salty water and and broth that's really nice. And then to add shrimp to all my noodles was pretty great.
That was a good idea. Yeah.
So
then snacks.
Yeah. Well, on the dehydrated meals, I learned that I liked the chicken and cauliflower and sweet potato mixture. I need to jump to quinoa because that is something you do that looks like money. What I found, though, is my chili was primal chili, and it's mostly like elk meat and bacon and, herbs and spices. And it's really good when I'm at home after a heavy CrossFit workout. But
loaded with protein.
Loaded with protein. Here, I wanted carbs. I wanted rice. I wanted noodles. I wanted sweet potatoes. I kept going to those meals and not eating the chili meals because they didn't have any carb source in them, really. They were so heavily primal, like keto. I needed more of something in there.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I saved a ton of money. I did all my own food, pretty much. The snacks, the jerky. I lived on the jerky, the leathers, and the dried bananas and apples, and the meals.
I saw you some peanut butter balls in there,
Suzanne made me a bunch of those peanut butter balls, which you gave me a few of your stuff too, with the hemp hearts. Everything was, I feel, healthier for sure. Yeah, I mean, I had way too much Ignite and Yeti, and
we maxed out.
Next time I'm bringing more Blaze shots because Ryan has a soft spot for them, and I'm able to barter
all I had to do was
products.
Wave a bag of hemp heart cookies in front of you, and you were throwing Blaze shots at me for trade.
So one thing I brought that I ate within the first 3 days that I just love it, is I like to smash those shot blocks.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We climbed a mountain a couple of times, and I was, shaking.
Those are quick sugar.
It's that quick sugar, that quick carb. It's like, oh, yeah. It's probably not super healthy, but to me, it's one of those things that it's the timing of when you're consuming that carbohydrate.
Yeah, when you're just cranking up a mountain with heavy weight and, coming out of one of those bowls that we did, I don't think you're hurting your health too much when you drop a few of those.
It felt like immediate stress reduction, like physical, you're just burning through, I think, those glycogen stores, and you're depleted. You get that blood sugars off, and you can quickly put it back in. The other thing I noticed was a couple of those days where we just physically exerted ourselves, hardcore. Two things. I have a hard time eating when I get that wasted. It's like now I need to live on Pedialyte and syrup. It's like I just feel really, the appetite's gone. It comes back in a day or two, but so I need foods that I can just take in that are less solids. Like that's where the ramen comes in.
A little bit of shrimp to digest.
Yeah. And then 2, electrolytes. Just a wide assortment of electrolytes of different kinds and powdered drink stuff really helps me. Like whether it's the Pedialyte, the Linduro,
Noon makes
those Noon tablets.
Yeah.
I like Costco makes these human IV deals that I've been really enjoying as well. But just having these different electrolyte type mixes. I've had some Propel from Gatorade. And just to mix a few of those up, as you guys know, I sweat profusely.
That's why we shared a shelter.
I sweat.
That was one of the reasons.
I sweat a lot. If any physical exertion, I'm just a sweater.
Well, and there was a lot of excitement on this trip. So what happens when you get excited, Brian?
When I get excited, my feet and hands gush sweat, and that's just genetic.
Like a faucet.
Like a faucet. And my kids all got it. My wife feels pity for all of us. I never understood how people could wear Birkenstocks. 2 weeks in Birkenstocks and they're ruined. I will have ruined them. They will smell like dead feet. They will be so sweat soaked that they're not useful anymore. You can't get the sweat out of that wood cork stuff. But I sweat heavy. And so getting those salt caps are another critical thing, popping a few of those.
Those things are money. Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing I wish I had brought, though, was more emergency vitamin C. I went through my vitamin C. I was craving it hardcore the first 4 days.
Yeah.
And once it was gone, the last 4 days, I could really feel that depletion.
Yeah.
And to put it in perspective for people, I mean, we covered some serious miles under load. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't say there's not a lot of distance. It wasn't distances. It was
a lot of
elevation and load.
Yeah.
It was a lot of straight up, straight down with heavy packs. 5 bears, You have to bring 5 bears back to camp among 3 guys.
They weren't little bears either.
And we brought the meat and the hides.
Skulls.
And the skulls.
Yeah.
This isn't like we're being soft here. This was a serious exertion. So that was kind of my takeaway moving into another hunt is more of the electrolyte mixes, more of the foods I can easily digest after I've crushed myself, a little more on the vitamins and minerals.
I know a vitamin that you need to add to your mix.
That's the thing is the CBD
Does it start with
thing.
C?
Yeah, it does.
Ryan
I was enjoying the CBD life the entire trip.
In his benefit, you and I both got sore.
I know.
And he laughs.
I know. And there's so much going into that, science wise and people reporting back. I was going to use it, but it is a little expensive.
It is expensive.
And honestly, I was really going to see what it would be like without it,
Yeah.
And I'm going to go do a hunt in a few weeks with Ryan in New Zealand. All do it yourself, public land.
Yep.
And we're going to probably crush ourselves like this. And I'm going to be on the CBD life.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
we'll find out if my hands don't still swell up and my knees swell up and my back swell up, like on this trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done it for that long, but I'm getting older, Brian. I mean, 40, what am I, 45, 46 years old now. Doing everything you can to combat inflammation with the foods you eat, as well as fish oils. CBD is one of the biggest, like all the research that's showing and the people that are taking it as far as what it does to combat inflammation is huge. And let's face it, what we do out here, you can't help it. Your joint. A lot of people, their joints just ache the next day after a big meat pack out, like we've been doing for the last week.
We pulled an all-nighter.
Oh yeah,
with heavy packs. After we packed the day before with heavy
packs.
We got to
sleep at 5 a.m. Yeah, brutal, coming out of a brutal canyon. And so I was taking a couple CBD caps every single day in the morning, and same time, and I feel great. I just didn't have any kind of joint aches or pains or inflammation issues.
And I think I'll benefit greatly from that because I already tried to limit the sugar intake, the processed foods, and the inflammatory things. I already do a good job managing that. So adding a little bit of CBD. The other thing I didn't bring on this trip that I should have, that probably would have helped tremendously, I know it would help because I've tested it before, is fish oil.
Yeah.
I just got lazy about bringing fish oil. I got lazy about bringing calcium, which I've told you, those Shift calcium pills seem to work wonders for me. I left both, thinking it was a short trip. But this trip was like, we did in 3 days what I would do on another 10-day hunt often.
I heard you say this was one of the toughest hunts you've ever been on.
It's on par with most of the elk hunts I've been on.
Yeah.
With Ben and Anthony.
Yeah.
It's on par with that. I've been into Hell's Canyon. I've been in the Eel Cap. So we backpacked in 14 miles and packed elk out. It's like this. And I was younger, though. I mean, 30, 32. And we talked about this, Ryan. I'm 44. I feel better now in my early 40s than I did, way better than I did in my 30s.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. And it's pretty surprising, right? I mean, a lot of people don't. But I think that's all about, I've benefited from having a smart wife, naturopathic wife, who has dialed in my health program, my foods and all that, and then I've ran with it. It's so drastic of a change from where I was in my 30s, my early 30s, where inflammation was all the time after these hunts. End of the seasons were brutal, and now you just don't get it. And it's so. And I'm skeptical I'm just a skeptic when it comes to anything like that, naturopathic. So I got to see it with my own two eyes. And the right foods, obviously preparation in the off season, the CBD thing, fish oils, anything and everything you can do to combat it. Why not? Because, overuse injuries and things like that are mostly related to inflammation.
Well, absolutely felt like, first of all, food-wise, I felt healthier than ever on the mountain.
You had big bags of food.
I ate more than you guys by far. It seemed like I ate way more than you. I'm like, am I always eating?
You were eating before your meal. You'd eat your meal, and then you'd be eating after your meal.
Except for those 2 days where I'm like living on liquid. But if I'm going to keep up with Ryan, I need a little, something's not quite where it could be maybe.
Genetics.
CBD. Don't say that, Lusk, because then it seems limiting. It also makes me feel less manly. So I say it's more along. We talked about this, Jeff.
I know.
We talked about this.
Hey.
Ryan is not genetically any different. It's the drugs.
That's right.
He is on PEDs, and we are lacking those.
That's right.
That makes me feel.
We're going to score. We're going to get some under the table
That's
stuff
right.
here pretty soon.
We're going to score the CBD, and we will report back.
Yeah.
Ryan does these things and keeps these little secrets.
It kind of freaks me out a little bit because CBD's like people just go straight to marijuana, right?
Yeah. There's a big
I've never smoked a
misconception
cigarette. I've never smoked marijuana. I've never done a drug. So like CBD, it's like I feel guilty like even thinking about wanting to take it. But the fact that you're doing it, and I've been around you for the last few years, and even little decisions take you weeks. And it's like, okay, I can wear this hat today. So for you to actually be doing CBD, it's like, man, maybe I should actually look into this and give it a shot.
And that's a good point, Jeff. For me, for my part, I'm like, it's not psychoactive. It's no different than any other plant that you eat, like broccoli. I don't really care if there's no psychoactive ingredients in it. It doesn't even register to me as something to even care about or be concerned about. But there are people who they do associate it with marijuana because it derives from cannabis, the plant. And so, they definitely have this, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be taking this kind of, feeling about it. And so.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's still a little bit unclear to people is the psychoactive thing. There is none of that in CBD.
Right.
There isn't any. So people that say, oh, you shouldn't have anything in your system and hunt at the same time, I couldn't agree more. I don't drink. I don't do any of that stuff.
Right.
But if it's going to help my joints and my overall well-being and inflammation and all that type of thing, sign me up. And there's nothing nothing bad about it. I'm trying to figure out, like, doing all this research. So what's the side effect? What is a drawback? Is it just the stigma? Because I think that's all there is. And it's just a little bit of uneducation from people. But when it's just like benefit after benefit after benefit with nothing, bad about it.
I mean, what can people say bad about it? I mean, obviously you can make something up, and what are people saying about it?
Well, what people just... Usually the comments I've seen is just very simple. It's a drug. Shouldn't be doing it when you're hunting. Like I said, I couldn't agree more. You shouldn't do any kind of a drug, any kind of psychoactive drug that's going to, play with your mind and put you in a different state, alcohol included, on that train. But this isn't that. So this is more of a
also then like
food.
It's more like
if
fish
I was
oil.
20, is this still a beneficial thing for me? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know how we all felt invincible back in our 20s?
Yeah.
I mean, but I still remember like lactic acid build up in my legs when I climbed a hill. I still got inflamed. I still had joint pain after doing it. You get sore. So yeah, it can help with that because it just combats a lot of that inflammation. So
I'm sold. I don't know about you, but
I've been sold for a while.
All you can do is try it and see if it works for you.
Well, the thing is then you're sold, and then you go look at the price tag, and you're like,
yeah,
unsold.
and the thing is, though, is there's tons of CBD products that you can buy. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them in different places.
For sure.
They're not the same.
Yeah.
They're not the same. It's like getting a calcium supplement is not the same as the next calcium supplement.
Oh, there's all kinds of cheap CBD, isolates out there that are not full spectrum, that are basically like nothing.
Right. So it doesn't do you any good to grab the wrong stuff, right? Get the right stuff. It's same with food. Like there's a difference between, let's say, grass-fed beef and corn-fed beef,
Absolutely.
right? Those little details, they matter, especially when you're trying to deal with inflammation and longevity and aging. So, nope.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Is there like a price? I mean, to make it real simple,
How
is
much
like
will it cost?
0 to 100? Is
How
that
much
something
will it
you
cost
steer
Jeff
clear
per
of,
month?
or?
I don't know.
But like, I mean, is it like if you buy CBD and you're paying $50, don't even try it, or where should somebody be thinking like, hey, if you're not spending around this, then you're probably getting screwed?
Gosh, that's a great question, Jeff. I don't know if you can look at it that way
Right.
because somebody can
More
put
of the ingredients.
high price point on. It needs to be full spectrum. It needs to be coming from a reliable source, and that's where it all comes back to.
Mm-hmm.
People could rip people off and sell cheap nothing, isolate. But that's you. You
So
know,
isolate. Isolate.
I mean,
is
I'll
what
be
you look
honest.
for.
We sell it. Hill and I.
Yeah, if you want some, go buy it
We
from
use it
Ryan
now.
and Hillary.
And I go with my wife's research.
Yeah.
She's skeptical like I am. She knows exactly where it's sourced from. She's done the research. It's full spectrum, all that kind of thing. So that's what I go by. And obviously that's hard for a lot of people to do.
And it's not easy to buy, though. You got to do like a e-check or something.
Yeah.
Because of the
Credit card companies don't
want to work with anything cannabis unless you have the pockets to do it. So you can get it from Ryan and Hillary, but it's it's not as easy of a process as just running your card. You got to do
e-check.
E-check.
Like a debit card.
Yeah. But I'm not recommending it to anyone yet till I try it.
Dude, we're going to pound some mountains in New Zealand, and I am very curious to see. But you need to start taking it now.
I will. I'll start taking it right away.
Yeah.
But I'll get on it, and then we'll see. I'll see.
Especially with someone who gets joint pain in their hands
Yep.
a lot. That'll be
my
a telltale
hands.
sign.
Mine are the
I've
knees.
always had it in the hands.
It's that big 2,500 foot down with, I don't know, 80, 90, 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it'll help.
My
it'll help
my
a lot.
calves were sore. They were tight. And my hands got inflamed. But it was also, light sleep, heavy loads, vertical miles. It was an intense trip, man.
Yeah.
Intense.
Man, I loved it.
I
It's
did
like
too.
Everything
I
you
did
want
too.
in a big adventure, right?